The headlights cut through the darkness like knives, catching something that shouldn't be there. Sheriff Tom Briggs pressed the brake pedal and felt his patrol car slide slightly on the frozen asphalt. Mile marker 47. Nothing out here but empty highway and winter wind that could kill a man if he let it. But there was something. Someone. A small figure stood in the road's center, perfectly still. Tom's heart hammered against his ribs as he eased the car forward. High beams revealing what his mind struggled to process. A boy, maybe 8 years old, holding a bundle against his chest. The child didn't move when the lights hit him. Didn't even blink. Tom killed the engine and stepped into air so cold it burned his lungs. His breath came out in white puffs as he approached the boy, hand instinctively resting on his service weapon. Not because he feared the child, but because whatever put a kid out here in 20-degree weather might still be close. "Son." Tom's voice cracked the silence. "You okay?" The boy looked up, dark eyes, serious face, cheeks red from cold but no tears. He clutched the bundle tighter, and Tom realized it was moving. Breathing. "Where's your mama, son?" "She sent me to finish her walk." The words came out matter-of-fact, like the boy was discussing the weather. Tom crouched down, bringing himself to the child's eye level. Up close, he could see the bundle was a baby, wrapped in a pink blanket. The infant's face was pale but peaceful, tiny lips slightly parted. "What walk?" "The one to your house." Something cold crawled down Tom's spine that had nothing to do with the weather. "How do you know where I live?" "Mama told me. Said you'd know what to do." Tom studied the boy's face in the headlight glare. Something familiar lurked in those features. The strong jawline, the deep-set eyes, the stubborn tilt of the chin. "What's your name?" "Danny." "This is Rose." "Danny what?" "Danny Crane." The name hit Tom like a physical blow. He rocked back on his heels, nearly losing his balance on the icy road. "Lila Crane. Jesus Christ. Lila Crane. Your mama," Tom said carefully. "She got brown hair. About this tall." He held his hand up to indicate height. "Yes, sir." "Where is she now, Danny?" The boy's expression didn't change. "She's not coming back." Tom's radio crackled from inside the patrol car, dispatch calling his unit number. He ignored it. The baby in Danny's arms stirred, making a soft sound that wasn't quite crying. "How long you been out here?" "Since dark." "That's 3 hours ago, son. You're half frozen." Tom reached for the baby. "Let me." "No." Danny stepped back. "I carry Rose. Mama said I carry Rose." The radio crackled again. Tom walked to the car and grabbed the handset. "Unit 7 to dispatch." "Tom, where are you?" "Got a call about abandoned vehicle on Millfield Road." Tom's blood turned to ice water. Millfield Road, where Lila Crane lived with her kids in that small house with the broken porch light. "I'm handling something. Be back in an hour." "Copy that." Tom hung up the radio and turned back to the children. Danny hadn't moved, still standing in the middle of the highway like he was planted there. The baby had gone quiet again. Too quiet. "Danny, we need to get you somewhere warm, both of you." "Okay. Can you walk to the car?" "Yes, sir." Tom opened the back door and turned the heat up full blast. Danny climbed in with Rose, settling into the seat like this was routine, like he'd done this before. "You hungry?" "Rose is. Got a bottle, but it's almost empty." Tom pulled a granola bar from his glove compartment and handed it back. Danny took it but didn't open it, just held it while he adjusted the baby in his arms. "Danny, I need you to tell me about your mama." "When's the last time you saw her?" The boy looked out of the window at the darkness rushing past. "This morning. She made breakfast. Pancakes with the good syrup." "What happened after breakfast?" "She got dressed up. The blue dress with the buttons. Put on her good shoes." "Then what?" "She said it was time for her walk. Said she might not make it back, but that was okay, because walks like hers, they're important walks." Tom's hands gripped the steering wheel tighter, through the windshield. The road stretched endlessly ahead, disappearing into black nothing. "She say where she was walking to?" "To find the truth about Daddy." The words hung in the air like smoke. Tom knew about James Crane. Every cop in the county knew about James Crane. Hunting accident 15 years back. Terrible tragedy. Case closed. "Your daddy died a long time ago, son." Mama said he didn't die the way they said he died. The radio crackled again. Tom ignored it. In the rearview mirror, He could see Danny's face, calm and patient, and far too old for 8 years. "What else did your mama say?" "Said if she doesn't come back, Rose and me should find Sheriff Briggs. Said you'd know what to do next." "What makes her think that?" Danny shifted Rose to his other arm, the movement practiced and gentle. "Because you were there the day they buried the truth about Daddy. Mama said you signed papers that said lies. But she also said you got a good heart under all that scared." Tom's mouth went dry. He remembered signing those papers, remembered the pressure from above, the hints about career advancement, the subtle threats about what happened to cops who asked too many questions. He'd been young then, ambitious, willing to look the other way for the right people. "Your mama say anything else?" "Said the truth's like a seed. You can bury it deep as you want, but eventually it grows up through the dirt." "Said her walk was about helping it grow." They drove in silence after that, the heater humming, the baby sleeping peacefully in Danny's arms. Tom's mind raced through possibilities, none of them good. Lila Crane had been asking questions around town for months, talking to old-timers, requesting files, making noise about her husband's death. Then suddenly, 3 weeks ago, she'd stopped. The radio crackled a third time. "Unit 7, we got reports of gunshots on Millfield Road. Need you to respond." Tom's heart hammered. He grabbed the handset. "On my way." In the mirror, Danny's eyes met his. The boy nodded once like he'd been expecting this. "She knew," Danny said quietly. "Knew what?" "That her walk would end the same place Daddy's did." The sheriff's station felt different at midnight. The fluorescent lights hummed too loud, casting harsh shadows across empty desks and forgotten coffee cups. Tom poured himself black coffee from the pot that had been sitting since afternoon, the bitter liquid burning his throat as he watched Danny feed Rose. The boy sat in Tom's desk chair, the baby cradled against his chest like he'd done this 1,000 times before. The bottle was nearly empty, formula running low, but Danny's movements were careful and practiced. He adjusted Rose's position when she fussed, tested the temperature against his wrist, wiped her mouth with the corner of her blanket. "You're good at that," Tom said. "Mama taught me. Said I might have to take care of Rose someday." The words hit Tom wrong, like Lila Crane had been preparing her son for this exact moment, planning for her own absence. "Where's your mama now, Danny?" Danny didn't look up from the baby. "In the ground." "Who put her there?" "Same man who put my daddy there." Tom set his coffee cup down hard enough to splash liquid across his desk. Rose startled at the sound, making a small cry before settling back against Danny's chest. "What man?" "Don't know his name. Mama just called him the one with the badge." The station's front door opened with a squeal of hinges. Deputy Carol Martinez stepped inside, her arms full of manila folders and loose papers. She'd been Tom's partner for 3 years, the only cop in the county who still asked the right questions when everyone else had learned to stop asking. "Sorry it took so long. Records room's a mess." Carol dumped the files on Tom's desk, papers scattering. "But I found what you wanted." Tom picked up the top folder. Lila Crane was written across the tab in Carol's neat handwriting. "She's been busy," Carol said, settling into the chair across from Tom's desk. "Filed 17 formal complaints in the past 6 months, every one of them about her husband's death." "What kind of complaints?" "Requesting evidence files, demanding witness interviews." Wanting to see the autopsy report, Carol flipped through papers. She also filed 3 Freedom of Information requests and contacted the state attorney general's office twice. Danny shifted Rose to his shoulder, patting her back until she burped. The sound was small and normal in the tense room. "She was looking for information about her husband's death," Carol whispered, glancing at Danny. "James Crane died in a hunting accident 15 years ago." "Wasn't no accident," Danny said quietly, not looking up from the baby. Carol's eyebrows shot up. "What makes you say that, honey?" "Mama showed me the pictures." Tom's stomach dropped. "What pictures?" "The ones she got from the man at the newspaper. Pictures from when they found Daddy." Carol and Tom exchanged glances. The county paper had covered James Crane's death with a small article and no photos, but newspaper photographers took pictures of everything, even if they didn't print them. "What did the pictures show?" Tom asked. Danny adjusted Rose in his arms, his small face serious. Daddy was face down in the leaves, but the hole in his back was real small, and the hole in his chest was real big. "How do you know about holes like that?" Mama explained it, said when bullets go through people, they make little holes going in and big holes coming out, said that's how you know which way someone was facing when they got shot. Carol leaned forward. Danny, what else did your mama tell you about your daddy's accident? That it wasn't no accident. She said men who get shot in the back don't fall forward, they fall backward. But Daddy was found face down. The silence stretched like a wire about to snap. Tom opened the Crane file and pulled out the original incident report. His own signature was at the bottom, 15 years younger, but still recognizable. Says here, your daddy was shot by another hunter who mistook him for a deer. Tom read, single gunshot wound to the chest. That's what the paper said, Danny agreed. But papers don't always tell the truth. Mama said papers tell whatever story the important people want told. Carol was reading over Tom's shoulder. The responding officers were you and Sheriff Whitmore. The medical examiner was Doc Patterson. The witnesses were... She stopped. Were who? Tom asked. Governor Whitmore's son, Marcus Whitmore, and District Attorney Whitmore's nephew, Peter. Tom's mouth went dry. The Whitmore family, the most powerful name in the county, with fingers in every government office and business deal for 50 miles. Mama said the Whitmores own everything around here, Danny said, including the truth. Rose started fussing, making small, hungry sounds. Danny looked at the empty bottle with worry. She needs more formula, he said. I'll get some from the emergency supplies, Carol offered, standing up. No. Danny's voice was firm. I'll do it. Mama said I'd take care of Rose. Nobody else. Carol pointed toward the break room. Supplies are in the cabinet above the sink, bottles in the drawer. Danny stood carefully, Rose secure in his arms. As he walked away, Tom noticed how the boy moved like someone much older, shoulders straight, steps measured and careful. Jesus Christ, Tom, Carol whispered once Danny was out of earshot. This kid knows things. Tom was still reading the incident report. According to this, James Crane was hunting alone. The other hunters found him after they heard the gunshot. But the boy says his father was shot in the back and fell forward, which is impossible. Carol pulled another file from the stack. I also found Lila's employment records. She worked at the county clerk's office until 3 months ago, had access to all kinds of documents. Why'd she quit? She didn't quit. She was fired for accessing files without authorization. From the break room came the sound of Danny talking softly to Rose, explaining each step as he prepared her bottle. Gotta make sure it's not too hot, Rosie. Test it on your wrist, just like Mama showed us. Tom rubbed his eyes. What files was she accessing? Property records, court documents, Sheriff's Department incident reports from 15 years ago. Carol's voice dropped lower. She was building a case, Tom, and someone didn't want her to finish it. You think they killed her? I think Lila Crane got too close to something big. And now she's missing, and her kids are homeless. Danny returned with Rose and a fresh bottle. The baby latched onto the nipple immediately, making soft, sucking sounds that filled the quiet station. Danny, Tom said gently, when's the last time you saw your mama alive? This morning. She made pancakes. What did she tell you about today? Said she was going for a walk. Said some walks are dangerous, but some truths are worth the danger. Did she say where she was walking? To the place where Daddy really died. Carol and Tom looked at each other. According to the official report, James Crane died on public hunting land 12 miles south of town, but Danny was suggesting there was another location. Where did your daddy really die? Carol asked. Danny looked up from Rose, his dark eyes holding secrets too heavy for a child to carry. Same place they've been burying secrets for 20 years. Same place they put the things they don't want found. He paused, stroking Rose's cheek as she drank. Mama called it the well. Tom's blood turned cold. He knew about the old well on Whitmore property. Everyone in law enforcement knew about it, but it was supposed to be sealed, off limits, forgotten. What well, son? The one where important people put unimportant problems. The radio crackled to life. All units, we have a body discovered on Millfield Road. Female, approximately 35 years old, requesting sheriff and coroner at scene. Tom's hand trembled as he reached for the radio. Danny didn't even look surprised. That's Mama, the boy said simply, adjusting Rose in his arms. Guess her walk is finished. The Crane house sat at the end of a gravel road that hadn't seen maintenance in years. Tom's patrol car bounced through potholes filled with frozen water, headlights sweeping across a small white house with peeling paint and a sagging front porch. No lights in the windows, no car in the driveway, the kind of empty that felt permanent. Danny pressed his face to the window as they pulled up. Rose slept against his chest, finally fed and warm. The baby had taken 2 full bottles at the station like she hadn't eaten in hours. "This is home," Tom asked. "Was home," Danny corrected. "Mama said we wouldn't be coming back." Tom killed the engine and studied the house. A child's bicycle lay on its side in the front yard, half buried in snow. A small swing hung from the oak tree, moving slightly in the wind. Normal things, family things, but something felt wrong about the stillness. "How long since you been here?" "This morning, when Mama made pancakes." They walked to the front door, Tom's boots crunching on frozen leaves. Danny pulled a key from his pocket, the metal cold against his small fingers. "She gave you a key?" "Mama said I might need to come back, to get things." "What things?" Danny turned the key and pushed open the door. "Important things. Things for you." The house smelled like cinnamon and sadness. Tom stepped inside and immediately noticed what Danny meant. This wasn't a home people had left planning to return. This was a home people had prepared to abandon. In the living room, 2 suitcases sat by the door, not hidden, not forgotten, placed deliberately where someone could grab them quickly. Tom opened the first case and found children's clothes neatly folded. The second held baby supplies, diapers, formula, bottles, blankets. "She packed for you and Rose." "Yes, sir." "What about for herself?" Danny walked to the kitchen without answering. Tom followed, Rose stirring slightly in the boy's arms. The kitchen table was clean except for a single plate and cup. One person's breakfast dishes, washed and set aside. "Danny, where's your mama's suitcase?" "Didn't pack one." "Why not?" "She said some walks don't have round trips." Tom opened cabinets and drawers, looking for something that would explain the careful preparation. In the drawer next to the sink, he found what he was searching for. A wall calendar torn from its nail and folded flat. Lila had circled dates in red ink, starting 3 months ago and leading up to yesterday. Each circled date had notes written in small, careful handwriting. Court records requested. Property deeds copied. Witness statements filed. Meeting with state investigators scheduled. The final entry was yesterday's date. Time to finish James's walk. She knew she wasn't coming back, Tom observed. Mama said some walks don't have round trips. What was she walking toward? Truth. Tom folded the calendar and slipped it into his jacket pocket. Danny had wandered into the back bedroom, moving through the space like he was saying goodbye to every corner. Tom followed and found the boy standing in front of a dresser covered with photographs. Pictures of James Crane filled the surface. Wedding photos, hunting trips, family picnics. In every image, James looked happy and alive and completely unaware that his life was measured in years, not decades. "You remember your daddy?" "A little. He smelled like coffee and wood shavings. He used to carry me on his shoulders." Danny picked up one photograph. James and Lila on their wedding day, both young and smiling and full of hope. Danny traced his finger along his father's face. "Mama said I got his eyes." "You do?" "She said that's why some people don't like looking at me, because I remind them of things they want to forget." Tom studied the boy's profile. The resemblance was strong. Dark eyes, strong jaw, stubborn chin, features that would grow more pronounced as Danny aged, making him look more like his father every year. Who doesn't like looking at you? Important people, people with badges and big houses and cars that don't have dents. Rose started fussing, making small, hungry sounds even though she'd just eaten. Danny bounced her gently, humming a tune Tom didn't recognize. "Where'd you learn that song?" "Mama sang it when Rose couldn't sleep. Said it was the same song Grandmama sang to her when she was little." Tom walked back to the kitchen, something bothering him about the clean surfaces and empty counters. Everything was too neat, too organized, like someone had spent time erasing traces of their presence. He opened the refrigerator and found it nearly empty. Milk, eggs, bread. Enough for breakfast, but not much else. No leftovers, no extra food. Nothing that suggested a family lived here regularly. "Danny, when did your mama start packing?" "Week ago. Maybe more. She did it when she thought I wasn't watching." What else did she do when she thought you weren't watching? Danny appeared in the kitchen doorway, Rose quiet against his shoulder. Burned papers in the backyard, lots of papers, made a big fire and stood there until everything turned to ash. What kind of papers? Don't know. But she cried while they burned. Tom opened more drawers, looking for bills, letters, anything that would give him insight into Lila's state of mind. Most drawers were empty or contained only basic household items, but in the drawer beside the stove, his fingers found an envelope wedged between the drawer and the cabinet frame. The envelope was addressed to him in Lila's careful handwriting. Sheriff Tom Briggs written across the front, but no stamp, no postmark, like she'd intended to deliver it personally. Danny, did your mama mention writing me a letter? She wrote lots of letters, to lawyers and newspaper people and government people. Said writing things down made them real. Tom tore open the envelope and unfolded 3 pages of lined paper covered in Lila's neat script. The letter was dated 2 weeks ago. Sheriff Briggs, I don't know if you remember me, but I remember you. You signed the papers that said my husband died in a hunting accident. I know you were young then, and I know the pressure you were under. But I need you to know the truth about what really happened to James. Tom's hands trembled as he continued reading. Lila had documented 15 years of questions, 15 years of digging for answers that no one wanted her to find. She'd tracked down witnesses who'd been paid to stay quiet. She'd found evidence that had been buried or destroyed. She'd built a case that implicated some of the most powerful men in the county. The men who killed James are still here, still powerful, still dangerous. Governor Whitmore was there that day. So was his brother, the district attorney. They were hunting on private land where James had discovered something they didn't want found. When James threatened to go public, they silenced him permanently. Tom looked up to find Danny watching him read. The boy's expression was calm, like he already knew what the letter contained. She told you about this? Some of it. Said I needed to know in case something happened to her. Tom continued reading. The letter contained names, dates, locations, a complete roadmap of corruption that reached from the sheriff's office to the governor's mansion, evidence of cover-ups, witness intimidation, and 15 years of lies built on one man's death. The final paragraph made Tom's blood run cold. If something happens to me, the children will find you. They know what needs finishing. Danny has been prepared for this possibility, and he will know how to contact the right people with the right information. Rose is innocent in all this, but she carries James's blood, and that makes her dangerous to them. Please keep her safe. Please finish what James started and I couldn't complete. The truth is buried in the well on Whitmore property, along with evidence that will destroy them all. But be careful, Sheriff. They've killed to protect their secrets before, and they won't hesitate to kill again. Tom folded the letter with shaking hands. Danny stood in the doorway, Rose sleeping peacefully in his arms, waiting patiently for Tom to process what he'd just learned. Your mama knew they were going to kill her. Yes, sir. And she sent you to me anyway. She said you were the only one left who might still have a conscience. The house felt colder suddenly, despite the heat running. Tom looked around the kitchen one more time, seeing it now for what it really was. Not a home abandoned in haste, but a stage carefully set for this exact moment. Everything planned, everything prepared, everything designed to put him exactly where he was right now, holding evidence that could destroy the most powerful family in the county. What happens now? Danny asked. Tom looked at the boy holding his baby sister, both children depending on him to make the right choice. Outside, wind rattled the windows, and somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed. Now we finish your mama's walk. The sheriff's station felt like a tomb at 2 in the morning. Tom spread Lila's letter across his desk under the old brass lamp that had been there since his father worked this job. The yellow light cast long shadows across pages covered in meticulous handwriting, each line a nail in someone's coffin. Carol pulled her chair closer, coffee growing cold in her hands as she read over his shoulder. The radio crackled occasionally with late-night calls from other counties, but their own was quiet as death. Jesus, Tom, look at this. Lila had documented everything with the precision of a woman who knew she was building her own funeral pyre. Witness statements that had vanished from official files, evidence that had been mysteriously lost or destroyed. Bank records showing payments to families who had suddenly stopped asking questions about hunting accidents and car crashes and drownings that didn't quite add up. "She's got copies of everything," Carol whispered. "Statements, photographs, financial records. How did she get all this?" She worked at the county clerk's office for 12 years, had access to files going back decades. Tom turned to the second page and found a hand-drawn chart that made his stomach clench. Lines connecting names, dates, incidents. At the center of it all, the Whitmore family tree spread like poison roots through every level of county government. Governor Marcus Whitmore, Tom read aloud. District Attorney Robert Whitmore, Sheriff William Whitmore, County Commissioner Patricia Whitmore Hayes. "The whole county runs on their name," Carol said, "and their money. Look at this." Lila had tracked campaign contributions, land deals, business partnerships. Every election, every appointment, every major decision in the county could be traced back to Whitmore influence or Whitmore money. She's got bank statements here showing payments to 12 different families over the past 15 years, all families who lost someone in accidents that were never properly investigated. Carol pointed to one entry. The Morrison family. Their son died in a car crash 3 years ago. Single vehicle accident. No witnesses. "I remember that case. Kid drove straight into a tree at 60 miles an hour. No skid marks, no sign he tried to brake." According to this, the Morrisons received $25,000 from a shell company owned by Whitmore Industries 2 weeks after the funeral. Tom's hands trembled as he turned to the third page. Lila had saved the worst for last. A detailed account of what James Crane had discovered the day before he died. James had been surveying land for a construction project, Tom read. Private contract work for a development company, but when he was mapping the northern section of what's now Whitmore State Park, he found something that wasn't supposed to be there. What? Waste drums, industrial chemicals buried in unmarked graves all over that land. Whitmore Industries had been dumping toxic waste there for decades, then bought the land cheap and sold it to the state for conservation purposes. Carol leaned back in her chair. Holy shit, that's federal crime territory. Environmental violations, fraud, conspiracy. James threatened to report it. That's why they killed him. The radio crackled with a call from the state police, another county dealing with a domestic disturbance. Normal problems for normal people who didn't know their whole world was built on lies. Tom found the section about the day James died. Lila had reconstructed the events with painful detail. James called his wife at 10 in the morning, told her he was going to the newspaper with what he'd found. He never made it. His body was discovered at 4 in the afternoon on public hunting land 12 miles from where he was supposed to be. Who found the body? Governor Whitmore's son and District Attorney Whitmore's nephew. They were out hunting and heard a gunshot. Convenient. Tom read further. The autopsy report said single gunshot wound to the chest, close range, consistent with hunting accident. But Lila got hold of the crime scene photographs that were never released. Carol grabbed the photos from the bottom of the stack, black and white images of James Crane's body lying face down in fallen leaves. Even in the grainy pictures, the truth was obvious. Entry wound in the back, exit wound in the chest. He was shot from behind, but found lying face down, which means someone moved the body, staged the scene. Tom felt sick. He remembered that day 15 years ago. He'd been a young deputy, eager to please, desperate to advance in a department where the Whitmore name opened every door. When Sheriff Whitmore had handed him the incident report to sign, Tom hadn't questioned the details, hadn't asked why the story didn't quite make sense. "This implicates half the county officials," Carol said, flipping through more pages. The coroner who signed off on the autopsy, the judge who closed the case, the prosecutor who declined to investigate further, including me, Tom finished. "I was deputy then. I signed off on the hunting accident report." The words tasted like ash in his mouth. He'd spent 15 years telling himself he'd just been following orders, doing his job, trusting his superiors. But the truth was simpler and uglier. He'd been a coward. Footsteps in the hallway made them both look up. Danny appeared in the doorway, Rose sleeping peacefully in his arms. The boy moved like a ghost, making no sound on the old wooden floors. "How long you been standing there, son?" "Just got here." Rose was hungry again. Danny walked to the desk and looked down at the papers spread across its surface. His eyes moved across the photographs, the bank statements, the careful documentation of 15 years of corruption. No 8-year-old should understand what he was seeing, but Danny's expression was calm and knowing. "That's all of it," he said. "Everything Mama found. She show you these papers?" "Some of them. Said I needed to know the truth in case something happened to her." Carol gathered the photographs and turned them face down. "You shouldn't have to see this stuff, honey. Already seen worse. Mama made sure I understood what kind of people we were dealing with." Tom studied the boy's face. "What did your mama say about me?" "Said you weren't bad. Just scared." "She say anything else about me?" "Said fear makes good men do bad things, but it don't make them bad men." The radio crackled again. This time it was their dispatcher calling from home, voice tight with worry. "Tom, you there? Got a call from the state police. They found a body on Millfield Road, female, mid-30s. Looks like Lila Crane." Tom reached for the radio with a heavy hand. "Copy that. I'll head out there now." "There's more. Governor's office called 20 minutes ago. Says he wants to see you first thing in the morning. Something about a situation that needs containing." Tom and Carol looked at each other. The machine was already in motion, the cover-up already beginning. "Tell the governor I'll be there." "Copy." Danny shifted Rose to his other arm, the baby stirring but not waking. "Mama said this would happen. Said they'd want to talk to you about containing the situation." "What else did she say?" "Said you'd have a choice to make between being Sheriff Briggs, who works for them, or Tom Briggs, who works for what's right." Carol was gathering the papers into neat stacks. "Tom, if this evidence is accurate, we're talking about conspiracy, murder, environmental crimes, witness tampering. This goes all the way to the governor's office." "I know. And if we pursue this, we're taking on the most powerful family in the state." "I know. They've killed to protect these secrets before. They won't hesitate to kill again." Tom looked at Danny holding his baby sister, both children depending on him to make the right choice. The boy's dark eyes held the same stubborn determination Tom had seen in James Crane's face 15 years ago. "What happens if we don't pursue it?" "Same thing that's been happening for 15 years. More accidents. More families paid to stay quiet. More truth buried in unmarked graves." Danny walked to the window and looked out at the empty street. "Mama said the hardest part wasn't finding the truth. It was deciding what to do with it once you found it." "What did she decide?" "That some things are more important than being safe." Tom stood and walked to the window beside Danny. Outside, the town looked peaceful and normal, streetlights casting pools of yellow on empty sidewalks. Houses where families slept safely, trusting that their sheriff would protect them from the monsters in the dark. But the real monsters wore badges and expensive suits. The real monsters sat in courtrooms and governors' mansions, making decisions that destroyed lives while hiding behind authority and respectability. "Carol, make copies of everything. 3 sets. Mail 1 to the state attorney general, 1 to the FBI field office, and 1 to that investigative reporter at the Capitol newspaper." "Tom, are you sure about this?" "No, but I'm sure about what happens if we do nothing." Danny turned from the window. "Mama said you'd make the right choice when the time came." "How could she be so sure?" "Because she said fear makes cowards of some men and heroes of others. And you got hero eyes." Tom laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. "Hero eyes. Your mama was quite a woman." "She was. And now she's dead because she tried to finish what Daddy started." Rose stirred in Danny's arms, making soft baby sounds. The boy adjusted her blanket and hummed that same tune Tom had heard earlier. "What happens now?" Carol asked. Tom looked at the evidence spread across his desk. 15 years of corruption documented in meticulous detail by a woman who'd known it would cost her life. The scope of it was staggering, but the choice was simple. "Now we finish Lila's walk. And if they come after us, then we make sure the truth gets out before they succeed." Danny nodded approval. "Mama would like that. She always said the truth was like water. You can dam it up for a while, but eventually it finds a way through." Tom reached for the phone. Time to make the calls that would change everything. Time to choose between the comfortable lies that had sustained him for 15 years and the dangerous truth that could destroy them all. Outside, the first hint of dawn touched the eastern sky. Soon the town would wake up, and nothing would ever be the same. The patrol car's headlights cut through darkness as Tom drove north on the old farm road that led to Whitmore property. Danny sat in the passenger seat, Rose's empty car seat behind them, a reminder of what they'd left behind at the station with Carol. "You sure about this, son? It's the middle of the night. Mama brought me here once. Said the ground remembers even when people forget." "When did she bring you here?" "Month ago, right after she got fired from the clerk's office. Said I needed to see what Daddy died for." Tom's hands gripped the steering wheel tighter. The road was getting rougher, barely maintained asphalt giving way to packed dirt and gravel. No streetlights out here, just endless darkness broken by fence posts and the occasional mailbox. How much further? Turn left at the broken gate. The one with the no trespassing sign. Tom slowed as his headlights caught the gate Danny mentioned. It hung open on rusted hinges, a weathered sign warning visitors away. Beyond it, a dirt track disappeared into thick woods. "This is private property, Danny. Whitmore property." "I know. That's why they thought nobody would ever find it." Tom turned onto the track, branches scraping against the car's roof as they drove deeper into the woods. The road was barely wide enough for one vehicle, clearly not meant for regular traffic. "Your mama really brought you out here alone." "She wasn't scared of them anymore. Said once you stop being scared, they lose their power over you." The track ended in a small clearing surrounded by oak trees. Tom killed the engine, and the silence rushed in like water filling a void. No sounds except wind in the trees and the settling tick of the cooling engine. "Now what?" Danny was already opening his door. "Follow me." "It's not far." Tom grabbed his flashlight and followed the boy into the woods. Danny moved with sure steps, like he'd walked this path many times before. The flashlight beam danced across tree trunks and fallen logs, revealing a landscape that felt ancient and undisturbed. "There," Danny said, pointing to a massive oak tree standing alone in another small clearing. Tom shined his light on the tree's trunk and saw what Danny was pointing at. Carved deep into the bark, nearly grown over with years of healing wood, were initials. JC plus LC? Daddy carved this the day he proposed, Danny said, running his small hand over the letters. Day before he died, he brought Mama here to show her what he'd found. "Show her what?" Danny walked around the tree's base, searching for something in the darkness. "Here, shine your light here." Tom followed the boy and found himself looking at what appeared to be the stone rim of an old well, partially hidden by undergrowth and fallen branches. The opening was maybe 4 feet across, covered by a rotting wooden lid that had collapsed inward. Jesus, how deep is this thing? Deep enough. Mama said it used to be a water well for the old homestead that was here before the Whitmores bought the land. Tom knelt beside the well and pulled away some of the broken wood covering the opening. The smell that rose from below made him gag. Chemical fumes mixed with decay and something else he couldn't identify. "Danny, step back from this thing." "It's okay. The smell won't hurt you if you don't breathe it too long." Tom shined his flashlight down into the well and felt his stomach clench. The beam revealed a nightmare 20 feet below. Bones scattered across the bottom, white and gleaming in the artificial light, but not human bones. Animal skeletons of various sizes, some still partially covered with rotting flesh. "What the hell? Look at the metal things. Behind the bones." Tom adjusted his flashlight angle and saw what Danny meant. Chemical drums, dozens of them, stacked along the well's walls. Industrial containers with warning labels still visible despite years of corrosion. "What is it, son?" "Mama said Daddy found where they dump things. Things they don't want found." Tom counted at least 30 drums visible in his light beam, and he could sense there were more in the darkness beyond his flashlight's reach. Some had split open, their contents leaking into the groundwater below. Chemical waste, industrial toxins. Dead animals, too. Mama said when livestock get sick from drinking bad water, farmers bring them here instead of reporting it. Whitmores pay them to keep quiet. The scope of it was staggering. Tom had heard rumors over the years about cancer clusters in the northern part of the county. Unusually high rates of birth defects, wells going dry or producing water that tasted wrong, but he'd never connected the dots. How long has this been going on? 20 years, maybe more. Started when Whitmore Industries got the big government contracts for road construction. They had to dispose of all the chemicals somewhere. And your daddy found this. He was surveying land for a development project. GPS coordinates led him right here. Mama said he spent 3 days documenting everything before he tried to report it. Tom shined his light around the clearing, seeing it now with different eyes. The dead patches in the grass, the trees with yellowing leaves despite the season, the unnatural silence of a place where wildlife had learned to stay away. People been getting sick, Danny said quietly. Cancer. Babies born wrong. Mama said that's why she had to walk. What do you mean? She couldn't let it keep happening. Couldn't let more families suffer while the Whitmores got richer. Tom pulled out his phone and started taking pictures. The flash illuminated the well's contents in stark detail, creating a photographic record of 15 years of environmental crimes. Danny, how many people know about this place? Just us now, and them, the Whitmores, and whoever else they got working for them. Mama said it was a whole network. People who transport the chemicals, people who pay off the farmers, people who make sure the right reports get filed and the wrong ones disappear. Tom took more pictures documenting the drums, the bones, the corroded warning labels, evidence that would destroy not just the Whitmore family, but an entire system of corruption that had poisoned his county for decades. Your mama document all this? Took pictures, collected water samples, mapped the contamination spread. She had files full of evidence at home. Burned them the night before she went on her walk. Said if something happened to her, the evidence would disappear anyway. Better to destroy it herself than let them use it against other people. The wind shifted, bringing another wave of chemical stench from the well. Tom covered his nose and mouth, but Danny seemed unaffected. You been here before. 3 times with Mama. She wanted me to understand what Daddy died for. Said someday I might need to show other people. Tom's phone buzzed with a text message. Carol checking in from the station. Everything okay? Rose is sleeping. Heard cars on the radio heading your direction. Tom's blood went cold. We need to leave. Now. They coming? Sounds like it. Danny walked back to the oak tree and placed his hand on the carved initials one more time. Mama said this was the last place Daddy was happy. Before he found the well. Before he knew what it meant. What did it mean? That some secrets are worth dying for, and some truths are worth living for. Headlights flickered through the trees in the distance, still far away, but getting closer. Multiple vehicles from the sound of engines carrying on the night air. How'd they know we were here? Same way they always know everything. Someone's watching. Someone's always watching. Tom grabbed Danny's hand and pulled him toward their car. Come on, son. Time to go. They ran through the woods, flashlight beam bouncing wildly as they navigated fallen logs and low branches. Behind them, the headlights were getting brighter, closer. There's another way out, Danny said. Old logging road on the far side of the clearing. Mama showed me. Can we reach it without them seeing us? If we hurry. They reached their car as the other vehicles entered the clearing behind them. Tom started the engine and killed the headlights, driving by moonlight as Danny directed him toward the logging road. Left here, between those 2 big trees. The car bounced over roots and rocks as Tom followed a track barely wide enough for his patrol car. In his rearview mirror, he could see flashlight beams searching the clearing they'd just left. They'll find the well. They know where it is. They're not looking for the well. What are they looking for? Us. Tom drove faster, hoping the old logging road would connect to a county road somewhere ahead. Danny sat quietly beside him, looking older than his 8 years in the dashboard's green glow. Danny, what your mama found here? What your daddy died for? It's bigger than I thought. Mama said it was never about the money. It was about what the money was buying. What do you mean? Silence. They were buying silence from everyone who might ask questions about why their kids were getting sick and their wells were going dry. The logging road finally connected to a paved county road Tom recognized. He turned toward town, checking his mirrors for pursuit that never came. They let us go. For now. But they know we were there. They know we saw. Tom thought about the pictures on his phone. Evidence of crimes that would destroy lives and end careers. Evidence that made him and Danny targets. What happens now, son? Danny stared out the window at the dark countryside rolling past. Now we decide if we're brave enough to finish what Mama and Daddy started. Dawn crept through the station windows like a guilty secret, casting long shadows across the evidence spread on Tom's desk. He sat in his chair, still wearing yesterday's uniform, watching Danny sleep on the old couch in the corner. Rose was with Carol in the break room, finally getting the rest she needed after a night that had changed everything. Tom's phone rang at exactly 6 in the morning. The sound cut through the silence like a blade, sharp and sudden. He looked at the caller ID and felt his stomach drop. Private number, but he knew who it was before he answered. Sheriff Briggs. "Good morning, Tom." Governor Marcus Whitmore's voice was smooth as silk, friendly as a snake. "I hear you found something interesting last night." Tom's grip tightened on the phone. "How do you—" "I hear everything in my county, Sheriff. Everything that matters anyway." The friendliness vanished from Whitmore's voice. "Bring me what the Crane woman left behind." Danny stirred on the couch, his dark eyes opening and focusing immediately on Tom. The boy had that gift children possess, the ability to go from deep sleep to full alertness in seconds. He sat up quietly, listening. "I'm not sure what you're talking about, Governor. Don't insult my intelligence, Tom. Lila Crane spent months building a case against my family. Documents, photographs, witness statements. She's dead now, but her work lives on. I want it. And if I don't have it, then you'll find it. Search her house, her car, her office. Turn over every rock until you locate every piece of evidence she collected." Tom looked at Danny, who was watching him with those two old eyes. The boy's expression was calm, expectant, like he'd been waiting for this exact conversation. "And the children?" Tom asked. "What about them? What happens to Danny and Rose?" There was a pause. When Whitmore spoke again, his voice carried the casual menace of a man accustomed to getting his way through fear. "Children sometimes have accidents, especially when they wander into dangerous places." The line went dead. Tom set the phone down with shaking hands, staring at the device like it might bite him. Danny stood up from the couch and walked over, his bare feet silent on the old wooden floor. "You heard all that?" "Yes, sir." Danny reached out and took Tom's hand. The boy's fingers were small and warm, trusting in a way that made Tom's chest tight. "Mama said this would happen, said you'd have to choose." "Choose what?" "Between being Sheriff Briggs, who works for them, or Tom Briggs, who works for what's right." Tom looked down at the evidence scattered across his desk. 15 years of cover-ups documented in meticulous detail. A woman murdered for seeking justice. 2 children whose lives now depended on his next decision. "What did your mama think I'd choose?" "She said you had hero eyes, but she also said heroes don't start out brave. They just decide to stop being scared." Tom stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the town was waking up. Early commuters driving to work, shop owners unlocking doors, children walking to school, normal people living normal lives, trusting that their sheriff would protect them from the monsters in the dark. But the real monsters wore expensive suits and lived in mansions. The real monsters had been poisoning his county for decades while hiding behind badges and campaign contributions. "Danny, if I do what the governor wants, you and Rose might be safe." "Might be, or we might have accidents anyway, because we know too much. And if I don't do what he wants, then we're all in danger. But at least we'll be in danger for the right reasons." Tom picked up his phone and scrolled through his contacts. His finger hovered over the number for the county district attorney, then moved past it. Robert Whitmore, the governor's brother, another part of the machine. He scrolled past the state attorney general's office. Too many political connections there, too many favors owed and debts to be paid. Finally, he found what he was looking for. A number he'd written down months ago when a federal agent had left his card after investigating a cross-county drug trafficking case. "FBI," a voice answered on the second ring. "This is Sheriff Tom Briggs from county. I need to speak with Agent Sarah Chen. It's urgent." "Hold, please." Danny climbed into the chair across from Tom's desk, watching with serious eyes as Tom waited for the agent to come on the line. "Agent Chen speaking." "Agent Chen, this is Sheriff Briggs. We met during the Morrison drug case 6 months ago." "I remember. What can I do for you, Sheriff?" "I have evidence of environmental crimes, murder, conspiracy, and official corruption reaching from the local level to the governor's office. I need federal protection for 2 children, and I need investigators who aren't connected to the local power structure." There was a pause. "That's a serious allegation, Sheriff." "It's a serious situation. How quickly can you get people here? Give me 2 hours. Don't talk to anyone else until we arrive. Copy that. Tom hung up and immediately dialed another number, the newsroom of the state's largest newspaper. City desk. I need to speak with Maria Santos, your investigative reporter. She's not in yet. Can I take a message? Tell her Sheriff Tom Briggs has a story that will bring down a governor. Tell her to call me immediately. Sheriff, are you... Tom hung up and dialed a third number. The State Environmental Protection Agency, EPA Emergency Hotline. I need to report large-scale illegal dumping of industrial chemicals, multiple violations, ongoing contamination, cover-up involving state officials. I'll need to transfer you to our Criminal Investigation Division. Do it. Danny watched as Tom made call after call. State investigators, Federal Environmental Crimes Task Force, the Attorney General's Public Corruption Unit. Each conversation was brief, urgent, and burned another bridge Tom could never rebuild. Carol appeared in the doorway with Rose in her arms. Tom, what's going on? Your phone's been ringing nonstop. We're finishing what Lila started. The calls I heard you making are going to get us all killed or save us all. Haven't decided which yet. Carol sat down in the remaining chair, Rose sleeping peacefully against her shoulder. Tom, if you're doing what I think you're doing, there's no going back. I know. They'll come after you. They'll come after all of us. They already are. Governor called 20 minutes ago. Wants the evidence, or the children have accidents. Carol's face went pale. Jesus. Danny spoke up from his chair. Mama said the difference between good people and bad people isn't whether they get scared. It's what they do when they're scared. Tom's phone rang again. Maria Santos from the newspaper. Sheriff Briggs, I got your message. What kind of story are we talking about? The kind that wins Pulitzer Prizes and destroys political careers. How fast can you get here? I'm already in my car. 1 hour. Bring a camera crew. You're going to want visuals for this. Tom hung up and looked at the children. Danny sitting straight and serious in the oversized chair. Rose sleeping innocently in Carol's arms. 2 kids who'd already lost everything, depending on him to make the right choice. Carol, I need you to take the children somewhere safe, out of county, away from here. Where? Your sister's place upstate. Stay there until this is over. What about you? I'll be here. Someone needs to be here when the feds arrive. Danny shook his head. I'm not leaving. Son, this is going to get dangerous. It's already dangerous, and Mama said I might need to tell people what I know. Can't do that if I'm hiding somewhere else. Tom's phone rang again. Unknown number. Sheriff Briggs. Tom, this is Marcus Whitmore. I'm disappointed. I thought we had an understanding. We did. Then you threatened to kill children. I never said anything about killing anyone. But accidents happen, Tom, especially to people who don't know when to mind their own business. My business is protecting the people of this county. That includes protecting them from you. Your business is whatever I say it is. I own this county, Tom. I own the judges, the prosecutors, the commissioners. I own you. Tom looked at Danny, who was watching him with calm, trusting eyes. The boy nodded once like he was giving permission for what came next. Not anymore, you don't. Tom, think about what you're doing. Think about your career, your pension, your future. I am thinking about it. I'm thinking about sleeping at night for the first time in 15 years. You're making a mistake. The mistake was made 15 years ago when I signed papers that said lies. I'm correcting it now. Tom hung up and turned off his phone. The die was cast. Federal agents were coming. Reporters were coming. The truth was about to break over his county like a flood, washing away everything the Whitmores had built on lies and corruption. What happens now? Carol asked. Danny answered before Tom could speak. Now we find out if the truth is stronger than power. And if it's not, then at least we tried. Mama said trying to do right is never wrong, even if you fail. Outside, Tom could hear sirens in the distance, federal agents arriving early, or Whitmore's people coming to clean up loose ends. Either way, the next few hours would determine whether justice would finally come to his county, or whether the darkness would win another round. Tom gathered Lila's evidence into a neat stack, ready to hand over to people who might actually do something with it. 15 years of silence was about to end one way or another. Carol, get the children out of here. Now. What about you? Someone needs to stay and face whatever comes through that door. Danny stood up and walked to Tom's side. Then we face it together. Son, Mama's dead because she faced it alone. You don't have to. Tom looked down at the boy and saw not just courage, but the same stubborn determination that had gotten James and Lila Crane killed. The same determination that might finally bring their killers to justice. The sirens were getting closer. By noon, the county had become a war zone. State police cars lined Main Street like soldier ants, their red and blue lights flashing in endless rotation. FBI vans parked outside the courthouse. Agents in dark suits carrying boxes of evidence seized from offices that had operated in shadow for decades. News trucks with satellite dishes sprouted from every available parking space. Reporters shouting questions at anyone who looked official. Tom stood at the station window, watching his world collapse in real time. In the space of 6 hours, everything he'd known about his county, his job, his life, had been stripped away and rebuilt from the ground up. "Sheriff, we need you to step away from the window." Agent Sarah Chen stood behind him, her voice professional but not unkind. She'd arrived with the first wave of federal agents, taking control of the investigation with quiet efficiency. "Not sheriff anymore, am I?" "No, as of 10 minutes ago. This department is under federal oversight. You're suspended pending investigation." Tom nodded. He'd expected this. You don't blow up 15 years of corruption without getting burned yourself. "What about my deputies?" "Those who weren't involved in the cover-up will be retained. Those who were will face charges." "How many?" "Half your department, including your former sheriff. William Whitmore was arrested 20 minutes ago." Through the window, Tom could see Danny sitting on the station steps, Rose sleeping in his lap. The boy watched the chaos with calm eyes, like he was studying a lesson he'd need to remember later. The children? "Safe for now. Social Services is reviewing their case." "Reviewing for what?" "Placement, foster care. They can't stay here." Tom turned from the window. "They can stay with me." Agent Chen's expression softened slightly. "Mr. Briggs, you're unemployed, under investigation, and likely facing criminal charges yourself. You're not exactly ideal foster parent material. Those kids trust me. Trust doesn't qualify you for custody. The state has procedures, requirements, background checks." "The state's procedures killed their mother." "That's not how Social Services sees it." Tom walked outside, needing air that didn't smell like betrayal and broken promises. Danny looked up as he approached, Rose stirring in the boy's arms. "How you doing, son?" "Okay." "Lot of people here." "Yeah, lot of people." Danny shifted Rose to his other arm. "Mama would be proud." "Of what?" "You finished her walk." Tom sat down on the steps beside Danny. Around them, agents and reporters moved with purpose, documenting the destruction of an empire built on silence and fear. "Don't feel much like finishing, feels more like starting." Same thing sometimes. Mama said every ending is really a beginning. A news van pulled up and disgorged a camera crew. The reporter, just a sharp-faced woman Tom recognized from television, immediately began scanning for interview subjects. "Mr. Briggs, I'm Maria Santos from Channel 7. Can we talk about your role in exposing the Whitmore conspiracy?" "No comment." "What about the children? Are you planning to adopt them?" Danny looked up sharply. "What's adopt mean?" "Means someone becomes your legal parent," Tom explained. "You want to be our daddy?" The question hit Tom like a physical blow. He looked at Danny's serious face, at Rose sleeping peacefully in her brother's arms, and realized he did want that, more than he'd wanted anything in years. "It's complicated, son." Maria Santos pressed closer. "Sheriff Briggs, sources say you were complicit in the original cover-up of James Crane's murder. How do you respond to allegations that you're only coming forward now to save your own career?" "My career's over." "Has been since I made those phone calls this morning." "Then why expose the truth now?" Tom looked at Danny, who was watching the exchange with quiet attention. "Because some things are more important than careers." The reporter turned to Danny. "Son, what's your name?" "Danny Crane." "And that's your sister?" "Yes, ma'am. This is Rose." "What do you think about everything that's happening today?" Danny considered the question seriously. "I think Mama would say the truth hurts before it heals." "But it always heals." The camera focused on Danny's face as he spoke. 8 years old and already understanding things that took most adults a lifetime to learn. "What happens to you and your sister now?" We stay together. That's what Mama said, no matter what. Agent Chen appeared at Tom's shoulder. Mr. Briggs, we need to discuss your testimony, and you need to move the children away from the cameras. Tom stood and gestured for Danny to follow. They walked around the building to the back parking lot, away from the media circus. Agent Chen, what's the situation with the Whitmores? Governor Whitmore was arrested at his campaign headquarters 2 hours ago. District Attorney Whitmore followed within the hour. We're executing search warrants on 12 properties and seizing financial records going back 20 years. And the dumping site. Environmental Crimes Task Force is on scene. Preliminary estimates suggest contamination affecting groundwater for a 50-mile radius. This is going to be one of the largest environmental prosecutions in state history. Danny listened to the conversation without comment, Rose beginning to wake up in his arms. What about prosecution of the murder cases? That's complicated. Most of the physical evidence is gone, destroyed, or compromised. We'll need witness testimony, documentary evidence, financial records showing payments for silence. Lila Crane documented everything. What she documented will help with the conspiracy charges, but murder prosecutions need more than documentary evidence. We need witnesses willing to testify. A car pulled into the parking lot, and Carol Martinez got out looking haggard and worried. Tom, thank God. I've been trying to reach you. Phone's been busy. What's wrong? Social services. They want to take the children into protective custody immediately. Danny's head snapped up. What's protective custody? Foster care, Carol explained gently. Temporary homes until permanent placement can be arranged. Together? Carol's expression answered before her words did. They don't have any families willing to take both of you. Danny, you'd go to one home, Rose to another. No. Danny's voice was quiet, but absolute. Mama said we stay together no matter what. Son, sometimes the system doesn't work that way. Then we change the system. The words came out with such calm determination that even Agent Chen looked surprised. Danny stood up, Rose secure in his arms, and faced the adults surrounding him. I won't let them split us up. Mama said family is the only thing that matters when everything else falls apart. Danny, you're 8 years old, Carol said gently. You don't get to make these decisions. Why not? It's my family. It's my sister. Tom knelt down to Danny's eye level. What do you want me to do, son? Fight for us. Like Mama fought for Daddy. Like you fought for the truth. It's not that simple. Mama said nothing important is ever simple. But that don't mean it's not worth doing. Agent Chen checked her phone. Social services will be here in an hour. Mr. Briggs, if you're serious about wanting custody, you need to contact a family law attorney immediately. I don't have money for lawyers. The ACLU might take the case pro bono. Civil rights angle, children of whistleblower, government corruption. It's the kind of case they like. Tom looked at Danny, who was watching him with those dark eyes so much like his father's. Rose had woken up and was looking around at all the unfamiliar faces with baby curiosity. Danny, if I fight for you and Rose, it might not work. The system is complicated, and there are rules. Mama said rules are just suggestions from people who gave up fighting. And if I lose, if they separate you anyway, then at least you tried. Mama said trying to do right is never wrong, even if you fail. Carol pulled out her phone. I know someone at the ACLU, civil rights lawyer who handles family cases. Let me make a call. As Carol dialed, more news vans arrived. The parking lot was filling with reporters, agents, and curious townspeople drawn by the biggest story their county had ever seen. This is going to get bigger, Agent Chen observed. National news, congressional hearings, federal investigations. You're all going to be in the spotlight for months. Will that help or hurt the custody case? Depends. Public sympathy might work in your favor, but media attention complicates everything. Danny walked to the edge of the parking lot and sat down on a concrete barrier, Rose content in his arms. Tom followed and sat beside him. You scared, son? Little bit, but Mama said being scared and being brave isn't opposite things. They're the same thing. How's that? Can't be brave if you're not scared first. Brave is what you do when you're scared, but you do the right thing anyway. Rose reached up and grabbed Danny's finger, making soft baby sounds. The simple gesture of trust and love hit Tom harder than any testimony or evidence he'd seen. Danny, if this doesn't work out, if the courts don't let you stay together, it'll work out. How can you be so sure? Because Mama's walk isn't finished yet. She started it, you continued it. But Rose and me, we got to finish it. What's left to finish? Making sure it never happens again. Making sure no more families get hurt while important people get rich. Tom looked at the boy beside him, 8 years old, and already carrying the weight of generational justice on his small shoulders. That's a big job for someone your age. Mama said age don't matter, only courage matters, and love, and doing what's right even when it's hard. Carol returned with her phone. Good news, the ACLU will take the case. Emergency hearing tomorrow morning to block the separation order. What are our chances? Better than I expected. The lawyer says cases involving whistleblower families get special consideration. Plus, Danny's old enough that his preferences will carry weight with the judge. Agent Chen checked her watch. Social services will be here soon. Mr. Briggs, you need to decide what you're doing. Tom looked at Danny and Rose, then at the chaos surrounding them. Federal agents, reporters, the destruction of everything he'd known for 15 years. In the middle of it all, 2 children who'd already lost everything, depending on him to keep them together. I'm fighting, even if it ruins what's left of your life. My life was already ruined. This might be the first chance I've had in 15 years to build something worth having. Danny smiled, the first real smile Tom had seen from the boy since finding him on that frozen road. Mama would like that. She always said the best things grow in the worst soil. Rose made a happy sound and clapped her hands, like she approved of the plan. In the distance, more sirens wailed, bringing more agents. More reporters, more pieces of the machine that was finally grinding the Whitmore empire to dust. The walk Lila Crane had started was far from over. 6 months later, Tom's small house sat on the edge of a different county, a different life. The white clapboard structure needed paint, and the front porch sagged slightly, but it was theirs. Legally, officially, permanently theirs. The adoption papers had been finalized last week, signed by a judge who understood that some families are born from choice rather than blood. The morning sun streamed through kitchen windows as Tom made coffee and watched Danny in the backyard garden. The boy knelt in the dirt beside Rose, who sat among the tomato plants, wearing a yellow sundress and a determined expression. At 14 months old, she was finally ready to walk, and Danny had appointed himself her primary instructor. Come on, Rosie. Just like we practiced. Danny held out his hands, and Rose grabbed his fingers with tiny fists. He helped her stand, her chubby legs wobbling but determined. Step by step, they moved across the garden path, Rose's face bright with concentration. That's it. You got it. Tom stepped onto the back porch, coffee mug warm in his hands. The sight of the children playing in the morning light never got old. Danny had grown 3 inches since winter, his dark hair longer now, his face losing some of the too-old seriousness that had marked it during those terrible days. Morning, you two. Tom, look, Rose took 4 steps yesterday without holding on. Danny called him Tom, not Dad. They'd discussed it early on and both agreed the distinction mattered. Danny had a father, and his name was James Crane. Tom was something different, something new. Not a replacement for what was lost, but a foundation for what could be built. Rose, however, had no such complications. She reached for Tom when he approached, babbling in the language only babies speak, but making her meaning clear. In her world, Tom was the man who fed her bottles and read bedtime stories and checked for monsters under her bed. Love was simpler at 14 months. Think your mama would approve? Tom asked, settling into one of the lawn chairs he'd bought at a garage sale. Danny helped Rose sit in the grass, then plopped down beside her. She finished her walk. Now Rose gets to start hers. The trials had made headlines across 3 states. Governor Marcus Whitmore convicted on conspiracy charges and sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. District Attorney Robert Whitmore following his brother into a cell 6 months later. Sheriff William Whitmore taking a plea deal that would keep him behind bars until he was 70. 23 other county officials were indicted. Dozens more lost their jobs or resigned in disgrace. The toxic cleanup would take decades and cost hundreds of millions of dollars, but it had begun. Wells were being tested, contaminated soil removed, families relocated from the worst affected areas. Lila Crane had become a symbol, the murdered woman whose children carried her torch to the end. There were newspaper articles, a television documentary, talk of a book deal that Tom had politely declined. He preferred the children grow up as normally as possible, not as characters in someone else's story about justice and corruption. "You ever regret it?" Danny asked, pulling Rose into his lap when she started fussing. "Giving up being sheriff? Can't regret something that was the right thing to do." "But you lost your job, your pension, your house." Tom looked around the small backyard with its vegetable garden and swing set he'd assembled himself. Lost some things, gained others. The custody battle had lasted 3 months. Social services fought the adoption, arguing that Tom was unfit due to his role in the original cover-up. The Whitmore family's remaining lawyers tried to have the children placed with distant relatives who could control the narrative. But the ACLU lawyer had been relentless, and public opinion had shifted strongly in favor of keeping the family together. The judge's final ruling was simple. These children have suffered enough. They deserve stability, love, and the chance to heal. Mr. Jordan Briggs has demonstrated his commitment to their welfare and his willingness to do what's right, regardless of personal cost. The adoption is approved. Danny had cried that day, the first time Tom had seen real tears from the boy. Not tears of sadness, but tears of relief. The terrible uncertainty was finally over. Rose crawled across the grass and pulled herself up using Tom's chair, her small hands gripping the armrest. She bounced on her toes, testing her balance, then took a tentative step toward Danny. "She's going to do it," Danny whispered. Rose took another step, then another. 3 wobbly steps across the grass before gravity won, and she sat down hard. But instead of crying, she clapped her hands and laughed with pure delight. Danny scrambled over and scooped her up, spinning her around. "You did it, Rosie. You walked all by yourself." For the first time since Tom had found them on that frozen road, both children were truly smiling. Not the careful, protective smiles they'd worn during the trials and interviews, but genuine joy. The sound of their laughter filled the backyard like music. "Mama said every ending is just another beginning," Danny told his sister, holding her close. "Your walk's just getting started." Tom's phone buzzed with a text message. Agent Chen checking in as she did every few weeks. The federal investigation was winding down, but some cases would continue for years. Tom was no longer needed as a witness, but he remained connected to the story that had changed everything. "How are the kids?" the message read. Tom typed back quickly. "Rose took her first steps today. Danny's teaching her to garden. They're healing." "And you?" Tom looked at the children playing in the grass, at the small house that needed repairs he couldn't afford, at the life he'd built from the wreckage of his old one. "Healing, too." Carol Martinez stopped by around noon, as she did most Saturdays. She'd been promoted to interim sheriff when the federal oversight ended, making her the first woman to hold the position in county history. The irony wasn't lost on any of them that Lila Crane's death had ultimately led to a woman taking charge of the department that had failed her. "How's the new job?" Tom asked as Carol pushed Rose on the swing set. "Complicated. Half the department quit or was fired. I'm rebuilding from scratch." "Good people apply?" "Some." "Word's gotten out that we actually investigate crimes now instead of covering them up." Attracting a different type of applicant, Danny was showing Carol his tomato plants, explaining with serious 8-year-old authority how proper watering prevented root rot. The boy had thrown himself into gardening with the same intensity he'd once applied to surviving trauma. "He's getting better," Carol observed. "Yeah, still has nightmares sometimes, but less than before." "And Rose?" "She's a baby." "Babies are resilient. As long as she's fed and loved and safe, she's happy." "What about school for Danny in the fall?" Tom had been dreading this conversation. "We'll figure it out. Maybe homeschool for a while until he's ready." "He's smart, Tom. Really smart. Might do better in a regular classroom than you think." "Might also get overwhelmed by all the questions and attention. Kid's been through enough." Carol nodded, understanding. They'd all been through enough. The trials, the media attention, the constant reminder of what they'd lost and what they'd won. Sometimes victory felt as exhausting as defeat. Rose ran across the yard with the unsteady gait of new walkers, arms outstretched for balance. She fell, got up, kept going. No fear, no hesitation, just forward motion and the pure joy of discovery. "She doesn't know," Danny said, sitting down beside Tom. About Mama and Daddy, about what happened. She won't remember any of it. Is that good or bad? Good, I think. She gets to start fresh. No nightmares about men with guns or wells full of poison. Just normal kid stuff. What about you? You remember everything. Yeah, but remembering isn't always bad. Means I can tell her about Mama when she's older. About how brave she was. How much she loved us. The afternoon stretched lazy and warm. Tom grilled hamburgers on the small propane grill while Danny and Rose played in the sprinkler. Normal suburban Saturday activities that felt miraculous after everything they'd been through. You ever think about dating? Carol asked as they watched the children play. Not ready for that yet. Maybe someday. Might be good for the kids to have a woman around. They've got you and Mrs. Henderson next door, and half the women at the grocery store who spoil Rose rotten every time we shop. It's not the same as having a mom. Tom was quiet for a long moment. They had a mom. She died protecting them. I'm not trying to replace her, just trying to give them a safe place to grow up. As evening approached, Tom called the children inside for baths and bedtime stories. Danny had learned to help with Rose's bath, shampooing her fine brown hair while she played with rubber ducks and tried to eat soap bubbles. Tom, Danny said as they got Rose into her pajamas, I've been thinking about something. What's that? When I grow up, I want to be a sheriff. Like you were. Tom looked at the boy's serious face. That's a hard job, son. Dangerous sometimes. I know, but somebody needs to make sure bad people don't hurt families. Make sure sheriffs do the right thing even when it's scary. What makes you think you'd be good at it? Mama always said I had a strong sense of right and wrong, and I know what it feels like when people in charge don't protect the people they're supposed to protect. Tom tucked Rose into her crib, kissing her forehead as she yawned and rubbed her eyes. In the next room, Danny was already in bed with a book about space exploration. Danny? Yeah? I think you'd make a good sheriff someday. Yeah? Yeah, you've got hero eyes. Danny smiled in the darkness. That's what Mama used to say. Tom turned off the light and walked to the living room window. Outside, the street was quiet and peaceful, porch lights glowing, families settling in for the night. Normal people living normal lives in a place where sheriffs actually protected and served. Somewhere, he hoped, Lila Crane was watching. Her children were safe, her killers were in prison, her county was healing. The toxic waste was being cleaned up, the corruption exposed, the silence finally broken. Her walk was finished. Theirs was just beginning. The boy who had once held a baby in the cold now held a future full of possibilities. Rose would grow up knowing safety and love, never remembering the darkness that had claimed her parents. Danny would carry their memory forward, but without the weight of unsolved injustice crushing his shoulders. Sometimes the hardest journeys ended with the simplest victories. Children who were safe, truth that saw daylight, the quiet satisfaction of doing what was right even when it cost everything. In the distance, a neighbor's dog barked once and fell silent. A car drove past, headlights sweeping across the window. Normal sounds of a normal evening in a normal town where families could sleep safely. Rose had taken another step forward today. Tomorrow she would take more, step by step, day by day, building a life her mother had died to make possible. The walk continued.